They're ready for you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Phil. I am excited about it. You come to the end of a long day, you sit back, you open a beer, you watch a sporting event. That's what men do. They watch girls softball. When that's what's on, that's what they watch. It's that or a cricket match between Scotland and Bermuda. Now, I am an educated man, Charlie, but when somebody tries to explain cricket to me, all I want to do is hit him in the head with a teapot.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, Patty. So it's softball. Sacramento State versus the University of the Pacific.
Well, that's a clash of the Titans.
Now, you're not going to spoil my fun.
I wouldn't want to.
I'm going to get to the end of the day. I'm going to sit back, open a beer.
And watch girls softball.
That's right.
Ask the producer to pipe this into the Clippers locker room. If I can talk to you, James, I hope you're taking notes. I'm telling you in advance, you're welcome for the wisdom I'm about to spew. Because listen, I get on my knees every night and pray for someone to believe in me like Daryl Morey believed in you. And you know what? You said, I'm going to break up with my whoopee. Not good enough. I see the bright lights in New York. I want to go there. I want back with Daryl Morey. They traded Ben Simmons for you. How did they pull that off? And you know what? You went there and you got a partner who got the MVP. He won the MVP. And what did you say afterwards? You said, they didn't hand me the reins. You're the point guard. You're holding the reins. And what did you do when you had the reins? You scored 9 points in Game 7 against Boston. You blew a 3-2 series lead. Listen, James, have you ever had those friends who had bad roommates? Over and over, they complained about their bad roommates. This guy's terrible. The bad roommate here. They never thought to be self-aware enough that they're the bad roommate. They're the problem. Hey, James, you're the problem. Because, James, you're not the beard. You're not the system. You're the problem.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
What the rock is cooking.
Oh, 1 second. Recording live from 3, count 'em 3 locations. This is Pass the Rock. I'm Patrick, and as always, I'm joined by 2 great men, Caesar, a.k.a. LCs.
I can officially be the beard now, since James Harden is no longer the beard.
And Jacob, a.k.a. Bethke.
And I will show you what James Harden looked like as a freshman at Arizona State, right here.
Well,
that's right.
Good to be back.
That was a beautiful opening, by the way.
It was, and I'm going to have to fix it in post to make it less choppy. You're welcome, everybody. But real quick, before we get into the meat of everything, I just wanted to do a brief update. I don't know if everybody remembers, but the Rangers won the World Series.
First place, Texas Rangers.
First place in everybody's hearts.
I finally got my hat in.
Nice.
Awards have been coming down. I think we talked a little bit about Golden Glove awards at some point, maybe. Or maybe Silver Slugger.
We talked about nominees. We didn't talk about,
yeah.
you know.
Okay, so we won 3.
Mercy.
Yeah. So that was good. Didn't win Manager of the Year, which is fine. The Orioles manager deserves that. It's a regular season award. They won 100-something games. They won the AL East, and they were terrible before, so that's fair. Josh Young did not get Rookie of the Year. It's a little sad, but oops. It'll be fine. We'll deal with that.
The 4th place?
He got a couple of second place votes. So I think he finished 3rd, I thought, but I might have looked at a different chart.
It's all right, because Evan Carter got to next year. He'll bring one to the franchise.
Yeah, we got Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford on the hook next year.
So back-to-back.
Getting that. No, I don't know about Langford. He probably won't get up in time.
Yeah.
But
so I said back-to-back, right? You'll have the next 2.
So that's just a fun to get to talk about the Rangers a little bit longer because we can, kind of thing.
But when do I get new players to complete the dynasty? How much longer do I have to wait?
December meetings is probably when everything's really going to happen. I mean, we got Jacob deGrom last December 14th, I think. I'll have to look back at my records, but yeah. And then another brief, quick stuff. I recorded something for the Stars, but my levels weren't right, so I'm going to have to record another one. But they're killing it right now. They're first place in the division. They're a game back. They're 2 points back at Vegas, but they're also 1 game in hand. The things that I will mention in that video, and I'll mention them here. Obviously, the defense was a problem last year. It needs to get better, especially the depth, which is something you're not going to really know about till later in the season when people are hurt and tired. And then the power play, which has been terrible pretty much all year until they scored 5 power play goals against Minnesota the other night, and it kind of kicked the average back up to make them look more competent. But you'd like to see them do that in more than just that one game. So
That's the Cowboy way to do it.
but they're small problems. Like I said, they're in a position to where they could be tied for first place once they catch up in games. You can't really ask for more, and they're kind of hanging on until the playoffs when the real stuff happens. What to expect from them this year, if you don't watch my little short thing later, is that they should easily be a top 2 or 3 seed. They should by on paper reach the Western Conference Finals or the Stanley Cup Finals, if not win the whole thing. They're in that tier, just on paper.
Beautiful.
So obviously injuries, anything can happen. It's a long season. You got a couple old guys you're depending on, but just on paper, that's what you're looking at. It's a really, really, really good team, and that's very fun. I actually get to go to the game, my first game this year, on Monday night in the FedEx Suites that me and Caesar watched Mavs Clippers in. Was it Mavs Clippers?
Mavs Celtics.
Celtics, yeah.
Celtics, the Boston
That was an ass kicking.
Celtics. Who do you get to watch? Who do you get to watch us face?
The New York Rangers, who are a pretty good team out of the East.
Fair enough.
I don't.
Hey,
original 6, I believe. Right? Yeah.
In the FedEx Suite, if you see Arthur Smith, you sock him right in that throat of his.
He's not going to be. I don't know if you know how.
He might have won head coach Fight Club, but he's not beating past.
You think he'll be fired and just hanging out doing things by then? Is that what you're suggesting?
Absolutely.
Visiting vendor suites. FedEx is a weird company. Yeah, we're not going to get into all this. Logistics of FedEx weren't the way I thought they were. But all that's to say, basically my quick update on our baseball and hockey stuff for the main pod, and I will quickly pass this thing on over to BETHKE, where we're going to talk a little bit of college football before we get into the basketball.
Oh yeah, buddy. I think that for me, I didn't get to watch as much football as I wanted to because it was in sunny California, doing family related stuff. But
it's the last time that's going to happen.
I believe you. But there was quite a stir towards the end of the night, and I did have to peek in a little bit. I don't think it was actually in the night. I think it was Sunday morning when the word was official, but Jimbo Fisher is officially fired from the Colts, as I like to call them, or Texas A&M, as they call themselves. The Fighting Aggies. We're going to be fighting for a new head coach, and then we're fighting to pay the bill because this man is owed quite the hefty sum.
He's still owed the exact amount of his first contract.
That's so. I actually have the breakdown here if you want me to just rattle off. But it's really very simple, right?
It's like Bobby Bonilla times 7. It's awesome.
Yeah, basically it's a modest thing, but it's so it's in the next 60 days he gets 20, basically gets 19.4, and then with another 120 days there gets to be his first installment of 7.27 million, which he gets every year until 2031.
It's beautiful. And I think the funniest thing about it is it doesn't have one of those clauses built in where if he gets hired someone else, it stops or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't write the clauses down, but yes,
no, it does
the clauses
not have
are
that.
also funny.
Yeah.
Yes, the clauses are also
getting
very
paid no
funny.
matter what. And it's a very interesting question of what's next for them. I think that a lot of people think that their boosters are going to want to go get a big hire again and be like, make this another huge splash. But I think the athletic director, if he was smart, which I'm sure he is, will at least consider positioning this as, look, this is what can happen. We don't need to go spend a whole bunch of money. Let's go get the right
who
guy.
are you going to spend it on?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Obviously the big names rumored right now would be like Lane Kiffin.
Which would just be a lateral move.
Some people say Deion Sanders. I think for Lane coming to A&M would be better than, where's he at, Ole Miss right now?
Ole Miss, yeah, it's better for him.
Ole Miss
I do agree. I agree, Lane Kiffin, but Lane Kiffin's dicey.
A much better recruit.
Yeah, but Ole Miss has had better success recently than A&M, I feel. I would have to look into it.
They have, yeah, because of him. That's the big. I think that's the biggest name. I know someone floated out Dion, but that's got to be a
So
joke.
I have a DraftKings list that matches some of the odds. I couldn't find a perfect odds maker for this when I was on a quick search, but
No.
Mike Elko at Duke. That's going to be one of the guys that you would probably be.
And he used to be at A&M, I believe, as a coach.
Oh, so he's
I think
probably
he's like a former coordinator or assistant coordinator or something like that.
So that's already a big deal there. The interesting thing looking at that would be exactly what you're describing. Is this is the responsible thing, looking at our program and saying this could be a great program, but it probably needs to be rebuilt into a program and not restarted into one. Because it's not that. I think there's Texas, there's Ohio State, there's Alabama, there's some of these schools, USC, that you can come in there and you can just kind of flip a switch and at least get that thing back to buzzsaw quickly, even if it's not a title contender just quite yet. A&M is the one where I feel like you kind of have to still build it a little bit more. It's there, but you still have to build a little bit more than those other programs.
They're resources, but they're still a wannabe program in some regards.
Yes, basically you got a nice home field advantage as long as your players don't actually care about. Never mind. We're not going to go into the political side of having to be an A&M player.
I don't
That's
think
for them
anyone
to deal
really cares or thinks about that at all. Too much.
I don't think you remember in that famous tweet I have to bring up every time. You know, whatever the players were protesting, and then he said, "Are you an Aggie or are you a?" And it was not a bad word, but it's a word I should just not repeat to give it power. But it wasn't a bad word because that one didn't rhyme. If the bad word would have rhymed, we probably would have used it. But anyway, so Mike Norvell is another one. That would kind of be the Jimbo Fisher successor in a couple ways because he's literally Florida State's head coach right now. And it would also be the biggest, splashiest hire you could probably get, unless it would be Dan Lanning, who's the Oregon's head coach. But I don't know if that's just picking the top head coaches you think they could pry away, or if there's any real logic to that.
Does your list have the UTSA guy?
It does not have the UTSA guy.
I think that's one that I've heard is some people think would be a smart choice. He's done very incredibly well for a school that's never been good ever. And I guess he's a former high school football coach, so the people who think that he would be good think that he's already got all those connections that you need for recruiting in Texas, which is absolutely huge, especially with Texas going to the SEC next year.
Yeah, and he's already recruiting pretty well in South Texas, so it wouldn't be too hard of a region for him to recruit in either.
Those are perfect. Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops is another interesting one at Kentucky. He's had Kentucky being decent for a while. Lance Leopold is kind of similar. And then Chris Kleiman at K-State, who's actually kind of sneaky, my other guy that I think that they should look into really hard. Because Chris Kleiman, I think maybe you could take that superstar JUCO bullshit and take it to A&M, and that might actually work there.
Man, if only there was some kind of superstar quarterback that they could have found at a JUCO remotely close to their campus at any point. It sucks to miss out on Cam Newton. Everyone did, but...
Yeah, it is funny when you think about
it. That man was playing at Blinn.
Blinn College. I honestly didn't even know Blinn College existed until I had driven by it one time.
There's no reason for you to. Now, unless you know about Cam Newton, you might, but...
No.
Right.
Or imagine if they had like a former number 1 overall pick on their roster at some point in their long.
And the final coach I wanted to talk about because he's the most fun. You mentioned Prime, but Prime isn't the most fun at this point because Prime's probably going to have to do another year at Colorado.
School. There's some other fun places for Prime, but that school doesn't make sense.
Maybe Mike Norvell leaving would bring into Florida State or something. Who knows? But this is the fun one, and it actually kind of feels like it's plausible too. But this would be another splashy, let's hire him based off what he's done, not what he could do, and that'd be Dabo.
God, I don't think he's leaving Clemson. He's so openly anti-NIL. I don't think the Aggie boosters are going to bring him in at all.
And also, Clemson's just a better job.
That part. But he does have a lot of the other characteristics that those A&M people will fall in love with. Oh boy, he'll have some boosters rubbing nipples based off of some of his
but I just think that's taking a step backwards down the job ladder.
You're right. I'm probably and it's probably taking a step backwards for A&M.
The only reason, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least laterally instead of backwards.
But all I can say as a fan of a team that is about to be directly competing against them, we're all very sad to hear this news of Jimbo's release. I wanted him to write out that contract, maybe get an extension or two. I thought everything went great, but
yeah. That's the bad part about this is ultimately you can make fun of A&M all you want, and it is fair because the contract especially. But
yeah, I've been talking crap about the Angels for a bunch of years, and now they've got Ron Washington, and I gotta reconcile with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that kind of feeling, and honestly, A&M could come. You know, that's the thing is a change in regime could be absolutely nothing, could be worse, or it could be the exact thing that they needed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna turn them into world beaters, but I think I think they'll get better at some point. So,
and they're not gonna be mad paying fucking Brandon Clark's salary for fucking some head coach to sit his ass on the bench. You know what I mean? This is like fringe rotation NBA player money right here. They'll be fine.
It brings you back to the best job in the world is probably fired head football coach.
Yep. Big fucking time. Big fucking time. At least college. I don't know if the pro guys get as well. McDaniels, McDaniels did get lucky.
It depends on your contract, but yeah, I mean, they got out of Gruden's pretty easily. I'm pretty sure. So,
well, there's different ways to get fired. There's sucking and there's sending racist shit in an email. So, yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. The Colt is looking for a new leader, and who will be the next man in line? I don't know.
Wait, I have a dark horse.
Oh, fuck yeah!
I just thought about it. Who's an embattled head coach right now at a major program?
Are we thinking
Harbaugh?
I think Harbaugh will be fine. That's a good transition because that's what we're gonna talk about next. I just honestly, for a second, I thought you were making a joke about them hiring Mel Tucker.
Oh no!
And
I mean, he's already gone.
That's dark. I was like, that's fucking dark seas. But yes, if A&M did that, I would think it was very not awesome, but also sort of like I would publicly be like, that's not cool, and in the back of it, it's the Shaq meme.
Yeah, no, we were both thinking Michigan. We were just thinking of the wrong side of the state.
Yeah, you were thinking someone who's actually still employable.
Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, you were talking about Mel Tucker. Sorry.
Yeah, Mel Tucker being
caught up.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you played in the NBA. Oh, I had to do it. Anyway, sorry. Well, Michigan. Well, they're the topic of all college football talk, really.
Yeah, the actual season's been kind of boring.
Yeah, and I think that as funny as it is, and as much as like maybe it's easy to compare this to what the Astros were doing, this one just seems a lot funnier. And maybe I'm being biased because I wanted the Astros to be cheaters the whole time and get the asterisks, and I don't really give a shit what history books do in Michigan in this case. But I do really want to appreciate how funny this is. I mean, there's just a lot of different things going on here. His name is it Casey or Connor Stallions?
Stallions.
Connor Stallions is how I'm pronouncing it. I think that's correct because ESPN or not ESPN.
That's the
where are the Golics at?
That's the word I've heard everyone saying it. They used to be ESPN.
Wherever the two Golics, Dad Golic and Son Golic do a show now, and I caught a little bit of that. And he was calling him a guy with a porn star name, and I was like, "You're right, Connor Stallions, definitely a porn star name." So this guy was basically like every good fraudster, fuckboy entrepreneur you might meet in college. I can think of a few off the top. I won't name, but definitely were in our fraternity there, coming in and out. And so so he basically was like, he was fixing vacuum cleaners on the side. He was sort of working in some capacity with the team, but not really. And basically Michigan's going to get out of it because he never filed expense reports. That's the long of the short of it, right?
That's funny.
But the funniest part is this dude was just basically hiding out on sidelines wearing the opponent's team's stuff. And there's multiple pictures of him like in Central Michigan stuff.
You can just buy at Academy.
He's basically become the Where's Waldo of Big Ten football.
Fuck yeah.
And
It's like
there's a lot of
you know those picture. There's like the one famous picture you can see of Putin right next to Reagan when Putin was in the KGB.
No, I've never seen that, but
yeah.
that feels similar.
It just
That's
seems like
amazing.
it's way too obvious, but it's like I guess
Yeah, I mean you're right.
I mean, you hear
It's-
stories that we've heard. I remember a couple years ago there was some guy who just like walked on as a fake Aggie recruit and just got to hang out with the team for a day. Like he just said he was a punter recruit, even though he was like 30 and like.
Wait.
Right,
Oh,
and what really
there's
might
another-
be the best part of the Jimbo Fisher era.
Yeah,
The
no, there's
selfie?
another guy who was like he was a student at a different school, and he went in and pretended to be a kicker or like a kicking recruit, and then he got caught by the
It
team.
would have to be kicker.
And they're just like, let
unless
him
you're
in
just a big guy. There's nothing else you can pretend you are
Yeah, that's fair.
True.
if you're trying to be a player.
Yeah.
Walk on kicker, the best way to sneak onto any
Yeah,
college
nobody-
football campus.
Nobody
apparently.
knows or cares who you are.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of love it though, because
Until you
especially in
miss-
light of
miss
Jimbo
or
being
make-
fired.
Until you miss or make one.
Well, yeah, but if you're never even going to be out there, you're
Yeah.
basically like fuck. But anyway, so there's a few things about this. Harbaugh is suspended for the rest of the season, but still gets to coach in the bowl games, plural, because
Really?
of the playoffs. Yeah. And the funniest part about this, in my opinion, and kind of why, if Texas wasn't to finally crack that long curse, is if Michigan won this natty, it would be kind of objectively hilarious how many games John Harbaugh actually coached this season.
Be an
Because
actual
remember, he
asterisk.
started this season suspended as well.
Yeah,
He
we
was
should,
back for 2 games, and he's suspended again for the rest of the season.
we should talk about the press conference that he had. I don't know how much of that you watched or listened to,
I did not.
Where-
But yes, please, fill me in.
where he starts talking about how the players are going through so much adversity, and it's like, this isn't this team's on hard luck. This is you guys got caught cheating.
He's
So-
taking the football guy approach. He has to.
Yeah, it's just an insane political move, which just works.
Football guy.
To just this is my narrative and this is the narrative, so go with it.
It's the good guy with the gun theory and one other version of politics. It's
It's
just you just
ridiculous.
use the us against the world mentality in sports, and everyone's just like, "You goddamn right it is."
Yeah, he's just up there like no one believed in these players. I'm like, you've been ranked number 2 all year, number 1 or 2 all year. Nobody
Something
like
believed
that.
in you.
I don't know what is Sharon Moore, I think is the interim head coach's name.
Couldn't tell you.
He also had an
I'll look it
emotional
up.
breakdown after they beat Penn
Which,
State this week.
I mean, for me, that's a guy getting the coach. He's out there with the players. They won. I get getting emotional after the game. I don't know what he said about it, but I can understand being emotional about getting to win the game. Like
it was similar. It was similar
I
rhetoric.
assume that it is tough. I assume that it is still tough on the team to go through a week of like, oh, our head coach is gone. Like that's probably not cool. But
Oh yeah.
for Harbaugh,
mean,
yeah, it's-
for Harbaugh to be in a press conference doing it is a little different than a guy who just I'll give you the on the field emotion, to some degree, as long as you're not strangling people or whatever else.
Yeah.
Tease.
And by the
Those
way,
are
it is
tease.
Sharon Moore. You were
Sharon
correct.
So yeah, funny ass story. I think it's kind of also funny in the way that I would assume that this probably helped Michigan State really beat a tougher opponent, tough opponent in Penn State. Probably not a title contender. Ultimately, Michigan's whole season doesn't come down to public opinion, doesn't come down to Harbaugh's future. It comes down to this Saturday because this is the big game coming up. Ohio State's won their 3. Is that right? Is that the last standings?
I don't even. I just know
see.
Texas is still at 7. That's where I stopped watching. I was actually at a main event when the announcement this last week was going on. You know what? I didn't see this week's because that was yesterday.
Yeah, Michigan is 2, Ohio State is 3.
It's Texas.
Oh,
is-
so Georgia's 1.
Rounding out the
Yeah.
top 5 is Florida
Yeah,
State
fair
at
enough.
4, Washington at 5.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
I assume Texas is probably still 7. There's no reason they would have moved, right? Oregon
No.
ahead of them.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
still
No,
7.
they don't. We'll get to Texas, but yeah, there's definitely no reason to boost them quite
No
yet.
reason to boost them,
But
no reason to
but
drop
they're
them
in
either, so
position,
They just got to win the conference.
Gotta win the
probably,
conference.
most
Hope
likely.
that somebody.
Well, Michigan and
Florida
Ohio State have to
State
play
or
each other,
Ohio State
so
flip up.
Yeah, most likely that's all Texas needs. But there, we'll get to the Big 12 because boy did the Big 12 be extra Big 12y this week. So yeah, and God love the Big 12 for doing it in its final true season.
God love it.
Let's see what else is there. Only other thing I wanted to talk about is how now I'm very interested in the running back for the Blake Corum. I'm going to need a running back for the Cowboys. This guy was caught up in he was a part of an LLC with this Connor Stallions guy. So now I know that he's, about that, sketchy boy life. He knows how to make him see he's a businessman, not a business. You know what I mean?
Heard
what's
Boss Man Fat's back on the market if you want to try to get him in there running back.
Boss Man Fat is happy to be a practice player if he wants to come back here, throw it up for the set, whatever he wants to do. Bring him on in. Honestly, Buffalo's guy can come in, but we'll get to that. So here's what we're gonna do. I just wanted to have him in there. He had the big fucking gash on his face, football guy in face.
Yeah.
He's kind of beefier. Looks like he could be really good to put next to Pollard and maybe Dowdle if Dowdle's real. We'll get into all that later. I'm starting to hit the market, and that was my biggest takeaway from the Michigan saga is that I potentially now have a new draft crush for my football team. So
Fair enough.
And I'm as far as going to asterisks, nowhere near it. In fact, I'm ushering it in. I think it's hilarious. It's funny. Let's play more Where's Waldo. And I saw a tweet that said somebody was like, well, hopefully this just ends in everybody using the fucking helmet microphones like they probably should anyway.
The dumbest thing in the world is they're out there holding like signs with "Hey Arnold, iCarly," the Bosnian flag, and like a rhombus. And you're like, I don't know what we're doing.
And they
This
all
isn't-
mean nothing
this
for the
isn't
most
football.
part.
And then then you got in the NFL, you got Josh Dobbs with his coach reading him plays into his headset.
Honestly,
it all means.
if I was owner of a team and my team was shitty, I would take away the iPads and I would just put dirt in the ground and I would hand them sticks.
It's got 4 QR codes, and you got to wear a special contact lens that scans them.
Oh my god! Now there's the
Do you
future.
remember the Nerf footballs? I think it was Nerf that like opened up and you could draw the play on a little like Etch-a-Sketch type woolly willy type screen.
I don't.
They broke very easily. They didn't last very long. It was it was a cool concept though. It was like you could open up the football and like draw the play for everyone around the huddle and close it.
I love the concept, but it also feels the ball's much heavier too now. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions.
It was a Nerf.
That's fair. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Otherwise, in the college football rankings, Georgia beat the fucking brakes off of Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin might be, accepting calls. Who knows? Maybe he's gonna tweet something, and everyone's gonna look at his tag, and it's gonna say College Station, Texas, and everybody's gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Who knows? You never know. It's a new world. Social media gets you.
Oh yeah, I think because of Elon, we're not allowed to track private jets on Twitter anymore. So
I did fuck up. There was one video you really do need to have, and hopefully people have already seen it by now. But I think we have the worst Deshaun Jackson of all time. Now it'll always still be called a Deshaun Jackson. But
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I was like, what are you talking about?
The kid's name is kind of tough to roll off the tongue. So good luck. So like just Washington Fumble is probably good.
What was his name?
I don't know. He's.
Is it Ozo?
Yeah, he's a Samoan kid, I believe.
Samoan kid. Okay, hold on.
I hope I'm not fucking that up too, but
let me. I'll look into this.
It's not a name that I could do just off the first time seeing it. And that was the first time I ever saw it.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know if he's good or not. I haven't watched a ton of Washington. I just heard Michael Penis is a good quarterback.
If I remember correctly, it's
he has a funky arm release.
You can just
who I think it is. Never mind.
Washington Fumble, but it was bad. It was like at the 2-yard line. He let go of the ball about the 2-yard line.
Yeah,
like
man.
I said, we're always going to call this the Deshaun Jackson. It's always Deshaun's. Will always be. But this one might be the actual worst one. I don't think that if there's actually a statistical website that could do that, I don't know who would set their time up for that, but
The analytics
you could just
of dropping the ball and where it was, and that's bad. I mean, that's a full stride basically, right?
it's about it. Like I think it's about at the 1.5 where he drops it, something like that. It's tough.
It's not good.
That's really tough.
Yeah,
So that's a
it's
quick note
hilarious for
there.
the rest of us, but you hate to see it for a college kid.
I saw a question posed on Twitter, and I was wanting to ask you guys: Marvin Harrison Jr., Caesar specifically. This is kind of your bag. Number 1 overall pick. Do you do it?
God, it depends. Okay,
Remember who
in a
very
vacuum,
much might be that pick.
in a vacuum, I think you should do it because he will be the best player in the draft. And you don't do it because positional value and all that other shit.
But
because
also-
you look at who's going to be at the top of the draft. It's probably going to be the Giants. They don't have a real quarterback. You can't sell me on Daniel Jones anymore. You look at the Chicago Bears. I think they're done with Justin Fields. So who's
They
going to
have 2
throw?
picks, right?
Yeah,
You
Potentially.
have 2 picks.
Cardinals and
Yeah.
the Cardinals and the Bears both have 2 picks.
Ooh,
I don't
if
think the Cardinals
got
are
it?
going to be bad enough. I don't think
Yeah,
the Cardinals
Cardinals
are going to
might.
be bad
Yeah,
enough.
Cardinals
Well,
might
who's their
win
other
some
pick?
Now
games.
Kyler Murray
Right.
coming back.
Yeah, I see
Like
the Cardinals.
Kyler
winning.
Murray's good enough to get them out of the top 4 picks.
And there's enough bad quarterback play where
Well,
I think that's
the question is
believable.
who's the other pick that they have? Whose is it?
I don't remember. Oh, it's Houston, but
Oh,
Houston's
okay.
good
Yeah,
now.
they're
Yeah,
winning both.
that's
Yeah.
fair. So the other pick won't matter. Yeah,
So
or well, it'll
Houston
matter to
might-
them, but nobody else.
Houston might be a playoff team, so that draft pick is not going to be really all that helpful in
Cool.
trying to move up for Marvin Harrison Jr. Though that would be the best pick for the Arizona Cardinals.
You don't think it would be the very Bears thing to do to say, "Hey, we got the number 1 overall pick because of the Panthers." Let's say that's how it happens, right? And you're just like, "But we really like Justin Fields. Like, we're gonna double down on Justin Fields. We're gonna take Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1, and then we'll take like the top-rated defense or offensive lineman or whatever the other top
that would
position
be
player is."
that would be really smart of them, in my opinion, because now you're investing in Justin Fields. Now he has a legit number 1 and like a 1B, maybe number 2 receiver in DJ Moore, and then you actually stock him up with a talented offensive lineman. You actually have something to build around there. I don't think the Bears are that smart, so they probably will
But
just.
what about
fuck it up.
desperate, right? Because like this kid could be the best Bears receiver in Bears history.
That's
After
not a
one
high bar to
season.
clear,
Well,
but yeah.
The problem
That's
is
what I'm saying.
they don't have anyone to get him the ball. It's not.
I don't know. I
Although
mean, yes,
I-
I agree, but like you can turn an offense around a little bit. At least, like, dude, there's some bad guys
Listen,
who've thrown. Like
the receivers
Andre
can only
Johnson
do
still
so
got his in
much, but-
some tough situations
Yeah.
without Schaub.
Listen,
Yeah, but you don't
I
win
saw
games.
not Eric Gordon. Oh my God, Gordon.
Melvin Gordon.
What's his name from
Josh
the
Gordon.
from the Browns? Josh Gordon.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah,
Gordon.
he put up
That's true.
1,600 yards with no real discernible talent at quarterback. Like, it's possible.
He's probably drunk.
And Justin Fields actually has talent. It's just a head case at quarterback.
He's got some developing to do. Is what they like.
We'll
to
see.
call
I mean,
it.
he is still very young. It's not
Yeah.
everyone's gonna be first year all pro.
Well, fair. Well, I wanted to pose that question because I thought it was
the
interesting.
Bears, so it's hilarious to me.
And I do think that the Bears would be pretty much the only scenario that would really realistically happen.
I would say, yeah, Bears. I guess the Cardinals won't have those high enough picks, maybe, but anyone who has
Mhm.
2 picks, you're more likely to shoot for the moon
It's-
on one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, it's
But
going to be a
there's-
battle for that.
But
for,
there's
like,
also
Drake.
the Caleb Williams factor, right? Where you might still just be ransoming that first overall pick no matter
We'll
what.
see.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think Caleb Williams' draft stock is going down right now. It could shoot back up because the combine
still-
and
You're not
pro
a fan
days.
of
But
the
like right now,
nails?
his stock
He's
is
still a
his stock is
quarterback,
down
so
right now,
yeah.
and it doesn't help.
Once the draft turns around, NFL teams are just like immediately they're like I'm never gonna talk to her again, and then 2 a.m. out her door. Like it's NFL teams and quarterbacks. It's impossible. It's impossible to get them to stop drafting them.
Yeah. Although
agree.
the
Unless
more
you're
you
the
look at
Cowboys.
Caleb Williams, the more you're like, oh shit, he's playing Josh Allen ball, and we'll get into what that means later.
Josh Allen ball. But we also, when we get to that point, need to remember the creators, the founders of that style of play. But we will. All right. Now to some not so awesome, some bittersweet news concerning the Big 12. The Texas Longhorns looked really nice, and then their arguable best player, at least offensively, tore his ACL, and the team looked like it pretty much stalled out. Did save its ass, won the game by the hair of its chinny chin chin, like it has been a lot of this season. And now we get to test Quinn Ewers is back. I guess that's another important note, because that was definitely lacking in the Kansas State game. Otherwise, that game probably wouldn't have been very close at all.
It helps having him back. He's still not. I don't know. It still seems like he's not playing his best. Obviously, he's coming back from an injury, but even at the beginning of the season, it didn't feel like he was playing his best. So
and he's confirmed he's coming back again, so we should note that. Throw that in there. There's reports that he's coming back.
We'll see about that.
Some reports that have from a source seems to be pretty accurate.
It's also just early. I mean, he might really think that now, and then by the end of the year, be like, you know what, I can go make money.
He wins a title, and it's different. That's for sure.
But they're in a good spot. Really, as long as they win out, they'll likely be in the playoff. They have the best win in the country right now, still. So that's a good thing to have.
Alabama has rebounded nicely.
Yeah, and that's really helping. That's going to boost Texas a lot. So I think if they win out, they'll probably be in the playoff. It is interesting to note that the playoff committee every year has put in the same people that the computers at the BCS would have put in. We just wanted to pick it ourselves, and I have no problem with that. Like, I think a computer's good. I just want to see, what you're putting into that computer. That's the debate for me, but that's kind of my quick thing on Texas. I think we are lacking in the QB department as far as being elite, like top echelon. But I think Quinn Ewers could still win you a title if the rest of the team runs it around, and really that big offensive line and big defensive line, if they can stay healthy, you can kind of beat anybody if you get the right game that week.
And I think that's why they haven't lost the one game, is because those two units are so goddamn strong that they really can keep you from a lot of things, except, and even that Oklahoma game, it was a game that you feel like you lost as much as they won. But you will probably see that Oklahoma team again because...
no, I don't think so.
Well, unfortunately, the Oklahoma State fuckboys who
they did run off and lose.
They stole Bedlam. They did it. This has been an ongoing thing, and maybe when the new Big 12 happens, the Oklahoma State will be the new champions of that year, of that conference every year. But I will always appreciate the Mike Gundy Oklahoma State years in my life, because that's a big deal. But let's just talk about how every single time Oklahoma State has managed to get in position to take the Big 12 and potentially get into the college football playoff, or at the time, one of the, just to get into through the BCS, they have fucked it up. They have gone through the season. They have beaten their hardest opponent. They've beaten some of the better Oklahoma teams that Oklahoma's thrown out there. And in every time, you can rely on Oklahoma State to fuck it up. This year, they fucked it up even more, Larry. So they started the season, I think, losing to, what was it, fucking Georgia Southern or something like that early?
Southern Alabama.
Southern Alabama. Then they come rushing back, looking great. They've got a fringe Heisman contender as a running back. Beat Oklahoma, only to get fucking shithoused at UCF. And can you boys tell me who the head coach of the UCF Golden Knights is? Because you do know him. He won a national championship. He won a national championship as offensive coordinator with the player you mentioned earlier.
So Cam Newton's offensive coordinator, but I don't know who that was.
Dan Mullen?
Gus Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn.
Was he not the head coach of Auburn then?
He became the head coach of Auburn after.
Okay.
He was the head coach of Auburn during that really awesome beating of when they beat Alabama on the
return,
field goal return.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe Oklahoma State is still technically ahead of Oklahoma in the standings.
But they have the head, and it's 2 losses.
So they still they still got to win out, but and I guess they beat Iowa State also, or they just haven't played them yet. I don't really know how they do the head-to-heads, the tiebreakers when they haven't played enough games yet. it'll get cleaned out in the wash. But they did knock themselves out of the driver's seat for sure.
Big time. And so I just wanted to laugh at that. Really just an unfortunate way to come back after Bedlam, having your fans all psyched up. You're getting ready to play Texas for sure. Maybe you safe buck you Texas and Oklahoma on the way out, and instead you may end up just laughing your way into a situation where you're watching those two play for the title again, and then and just ride off into the sunset forever. So also wondering if the Big 12 officials will have anything to say about the games moving forward.
What do you mean?
You think there'd be any pettiness that might help Oklahoma State clean out this schedule, even if Oklahoma does too?
Nah. They're still making all their money this year because of Texas and Oklahoma, so.
But they're not. I mean, they're still gonna play the games. Doesn't mean they have to win them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they have to win them. That's pretty much it for the college football notes. Unless you guys have.
Not really. Nothing here.
Nothing at the moment.
What about North Texas update? Anything?
The Fighting Mean Green are fighting their way through some turmoil this season.
Yeah, it's
happens for the
they're
best.
up and down.
It's a rebuilding year. We're gonna spend some NIL money. Pastor Rock's gonna make some money, and then next year we're gonna invest some money, and things are gonna start happening. We're Joe Dirt.
Let's convince Malik Murphy to transfer to UNT.
Dude, Malik Murphy would be nice at UNT though. Holy shit. Now Malik Murphy is definitely gonna transfer out somewhere, and he'll be useful, but it'll have to be somewhere where they don't have to ask him to throw football much because he's a good athlete. Big dude. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about here before we wrap up the college football and get into a quick bit of hoops?
No, I think that's a good time as any to get on.
Let's hoop it up.
All right. I don't know if there's a transition if we're just doing this, but we're going to talk some basketball.
Y'all hear this? Okay.
I like it.
This is
basically
the title track to NBA Live 2000.
Oh. So what I wanted to introduce to you guys is we'll do the Texas two-step regularly moving forward, probably throughout the duration of the NFL season. But in wake of that, I think on probably Thursday nights, this will be a little inside baseball here. I think on Thursday nights, I'll probably record something for us to put out on Fridays called the Weekly Hoopla. And that'll just be a quick rundown of all the stuff that's kind of gone on. I've got it sectioned out to where it'll be injuries, news and rumors, and then quick standings updates. So it won't be anything longer than probably 10, 15 minutes anyway. But that'll be fun bite-sized ways to get through a lot of the meat and potatoes of the drama before we actually start covering basketball for real. So on to the Texas two-step.
I did want to mention real quick that we do have our first elimination. The Memphis Grizzlies did get eliminated from the in-season tournament at 0-3.
I saw some people talking about who could be eliminated, but I just assumed Memphis was. I hadn't actually.
They have been. They're the only official. While Toronto has yet to play a game for the in-season tournament, Memphis is officially out of it.
I didn't even know that, but I just started looking over the standings when I was getting the Mavs first
I looked at the standings
records
today. It's not like I'm really keeping up with it all that well. I know the Spurs
are
are doing well.
I am the in-season tournament or the IST aficionado. Again, I just have to say.
Did you spell that word correctly?
I googled it.
Okay, I have no idea. I would have assumed two F's, but
nope. That's why I Google.
Fair. And I
just
realized I
double check.
forgot to take down the West standings. I think, but that's all right.
That's all right. Fuck it. We're only talking about 2 West teams anyway. So where we left off for the Dallas Mavericks, they were we'll do the quick numbers thing here. 4th in offensive rating. They're now 2nd in offensive rating. We're only probably 3 or 4 more games since we last talked. 8th in pace when we last checked. 4th in pace now. So you're seeing 2 positive trends. You ready for the bad news?
Oh,
from
yeah, his defense
17th
rating.
to 25th in defensive rating after a few nasty outings. There was a really gross game.
Those are the games without. Wait, I'm sorry. I kind of missed. You're talking about the Mavericks.
The Mavericks. Yeah, this is the Mavericks.
Are these the
numbers.
games without Blake Lively though, or Derek Lively? I keep
Blake
calling.
Lively.
I keep calling him that. Derek Lively.
Oh, I love that. Oh, really Blake Lively when he's not playing well. So yes, I think there is at least one of those. Yeah, I think Derek Lively's 9 out of 11 games, something like that. Maybe
Okay.
10 out of 11. So he's played in most of them.
I
But
know he
anyway,
hit me sometime, and I know that he's strangely been a pretty big factor at the very beginning of the season. Not strangely, but just
absolutely.
kind of unexpectedly as big of a factor as he is.
I think there used to be a defensive notion that rookies couldn't help anybody, and now we're starting to see a lot of evidence in the last few years that that's maybe an outdated theory.
And I'm probably just
Easier to
used to
something.
watching Carlisle ball around here, where he just won't play anyone until they're like a 4th year in the league guy. So
Well, I mean, the Mavericks haven't had anyone of this size anchoring the post in forever, too.
Sean Bradley,
Not that far, but it feels like it sometimes.
Sagana Job.
Well, Tyson,
Yeah, I know. I'm just
and then
trying
maybe
to
if
name
you're-
the worst ones I can.
if you really remember, there was a Samuel Delamere year after Tyson.
Oh, they did
that
have
was kinda
Dalembert,
solid.
didn't they?
2015.
It was kind of
Yeah, I
solid.
remember
Yeah,
that.
it was actually pretty solid Samuel. And then Zaza Pachulia year. But Zaza's a little different, but he was still pretty solid for the Mavs too. Anyway, we're getting into the ways that Dirk got misused in his final years of breaking his knees. Anyway, so yes, the Derek Lively's impacted quite a bit. A lot of rookies have defensively more than offensively this season, especially. So maybe that's just a new trend in a different direction, and that's why no one could have projected Lively to be this much of an impact. That being said, it still seems like hold on. So we should talk about the last thing in standings before we actually get into the roster and where I kind of feel with them right now. Because there's an important thing going on. You know, we've mentioned here the IST. The Mavericks are 1-2 in the IST, despite being 8-3 in the regular season thus far. So one could say that Luka's not taking the IST very seriously.
Yeah, he doesn't want that $500,000 or whatever it is.
Chump change.
No.
I'm Luka Doncic, dude.
not
My
to the
dad had
rest
a
of his
yacht when I was a
team.
kid. The fuck do I want $500K for, bitch? That's how much I pay my
your-
dog's groomer.
For your 12th man, for your Theo Pinsons.
Well, Theo's working with the G League team now, so I think that's
You know what I mean, though. It's like that's.
yeah.
I would think they'd want to help those guys out if they could.
The Markieff Morris better get his ass up on the court and start shooting. I don't know what to tell him. But Rashawn Holmes, you need to play some fucking minutes, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway. Yeah, they're 4th in the West, Group B bracket. There's one game left against Houston at home. And so most likely the Mavericks will not advance into the in-season tournament playoffs. Essentially what would need to happen is for them to go 2-2 and have better differentials. Unfortunately, the Mavericks got shithoused in 2 of their in-season tournament games. Not really shithoused in the Denver one, but it was there was like a 10-point differential through most of the games, so their differential is also really bad, which is the other factor if there's any tiebreakers, which there most likely will be because there's only 4 games. Now on to the actual team and the shit that matters. No offense, Adam. We're still watching the IST. Hey, Draymond cares about the IST. If no one else cares
Yeah,
about
I
the
was gonna
IST,
say we probably
someone
have
does.
to mention what's going on with all that, right?
I will on the
I know
hoopla.
that you want to,
But
but I just feel like this is so
Go
far.
ahead and-
So far into the season, this is the biggest story of actual happenings on the court. I think, besides Victor's debut.
is it, or is this just another day in the life?
I mean, I think it is because it's the him without Steph thing. It just
Yeah,
the
Rudy
whole-
getting
it's just,
talked a
you
little
know,
bit
I mean,
back.
you're
I
right.
was
It
impressed.
is another day, but it's like it's not quite Antonio Brown, but it is just a long laundry list of like these keep adding up more and more. It's like someone's got to do something.
Draymond Green can retire from the NBA and have a very, very long reel of just non-basketball antics that could make up his highlight reel, and it's funny. That's why it's for me. It's goofy.
Do you want to explain what happened real quick before we?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I got off a plane yesterday and just Twitter was exploding. So I'm on a plane back from California. I've got TNT, so I'm watching the games, but I'm also reading a book. So I didn't watch the halftime report where Shaq and Chuck are making fun of that shit, right? So I didn't even see that. I'm just watching the two games that were on. And so I guess it's about second half of actually, it might have been the second halftime of the second game, Denver Clippers, that they made those jokes, because I would have been getting off the plane by then. But yeah, as soon as I touched ground, I'm like, all right, what's Twitter going? I look down and all of a sudden Draymond Green has literally got Rudy Gobert by the neck, dragging his ass across the court with everybody and their dog on him. There was some other stuff that went on. Klay Thompson was a part of this. It was basically Klay Thompson and Jaden McDaniels started getting to a little bit of jostling. That turned into some quick strikes, but not quite to the face or anything. More like body, more like aggressive pushing and shoving is how I would like to look at it. And then all of a sudden, just because that's who he is, Draymond's like, you know what? I don't need these extra minutes tonight, actually. And he ran his ass over there, and he got ejected. Klay got ejected. Jaden got ejected, and I don't think Rudy got ejected. I think he was the only player involved that did not. Karl Anthony Towns also involved, kind of, but I guess they deemed him as a peacemaker.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though he also had Draymond Green by the neck for just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Slightly different.
I think it would have been funny if Gobert got ejected, because like all he was in a chokehold. Like why are you ejecting a guy who was a victim?
His face was so goddamn funny, man.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what is happening to me?
He had no clue why Draymond decided.
No one in the NBA has ever had, in the last, at least since they've been fully sized adults, has had anyone come close to doing something like that to them.
Well, we had the Beef Stew LeBron thing early last year, where Isaiah Stewart plays for. He's a big guy for the Celtics or for the Pistons. He fucking LeBron busted his face open, nose open, forget where it was, and that dude actually fucking charged at him with them. That was in the they ripped his jersey trying to keep him away from charging at LeBron. So some things still, get a little feisty, but yeah. I think that you can also tell the NBA doesn't feel like there's that big of an issue because only 5 games for Draymond. The other guys got fined. Even Rudy got fined. So it's pretty much just
for what he's saying or for his actions on the court.
I think for the involvement in the issue, I guess,
because he has not been quiet about talking about it. Calling out Draymond for doing it every time Seth's out, calling out Steve Kerr. Well, kind of not. He was like, I understand Steve Kerr has to say what he has to say, but he knows this guy's a clown or whatever.
This is a strategy that people are going to question and criticize, and I think that's fair. But it's also like, today I saw someone criticizing Michael Jordan for using the Space Jam sessions as a way for him to monitor the NBA that he had missed in his time off for his comeback. And I'm like, no, that seems like a pretty fucking smart thing to do. Like, all those kids didn't realize that he was pulling a fast one on them because he just hadn't seen a lot of the new youth movement of the NBA. So he just invited them. He already knew they're in LA, so he's shooting a movie. Yeah. Come on down. I'm going to just check your skills out, see what you got. Because I haven't been watching basketball for a year and a half, and I'm going to come back and just try to win a few fucking more titles because that's who I'm Michael fucking Jordan. They're my titles. I'm lending them to Akeem right now, but they're mine, So I think that if Draymond wants to take the days off, the Steph can't play, that is what it is. I can't be that mad at it. It's funny.
It's an interesting type of load management.
Exactly.
Instead of DNP, stranglehold and suspension.
I think Rashid would be proud. I think that's all I can think of it is Draymond is long since past that standard. Maybe DeMarcus Cousins would have been the all-time GOAT, but he just couldn't stay in the league long enough.
No.
But yeah, Draymond.
A minute where I was worried about Boogie.
Yeah, there's your there's your Draymond spiel. I'll probably get into it a little bit more, but that's pretty much it, dude. I think it could hinder a little bit of this Golden State Warrior nice start, but I think they're gonna be just fucking fine long term.
Yeah.
Especially because of the injury stuff that I'll talk about on the hoopla concerning Steph Curry.
The only way I see it hurting them is if, they got to go play the Timberwolves in the playoffs and he gets himself suspended in game 1. But who knows? He mostly seems smart enough to not do that. So
I think if you're a Warriors fan, you pretty much just don't want to see the Lakers because that's the only series where you just kind of have to look at Draymond and be like, are you on our side or are you on their side? Otherwise, I think you get 100,000% of Draymond. And I think that he's calculated in the playoffs with those shenanigans.
Yeah,
especially
that's the thing.
after losing that title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no joke.
So the core of the Mavericks, that's what I wanted to get into before we quickly talk about the Spurs. Because as much as the Spurs deserve a little bit of talking about, there's just kind of not that much there.
No, I think
there's enough. There's one particularly important thing, but the rest of it is not that great.
They need to get better.
Yes, it is all up from here, I believe. So my couple things here for the Mavericks right now. We're happy with the start, obviously. I think there was some Jason Kidd reports of Omax starting to get real minutes, maybe just 5-10 minutes to start, which is most likely scenario. I think that is more of a result of their defensive rating continuously dropping. They did beat the Wizards tonight pretty handedly, but unfortunately, because it was such a blowout, the Wizards still scored 117. So the stat book's still going to look like shit for the Mavericks on the defensive end.
Yeah.
But that's not that big a deal. It was a blowout. You win. It's 9-3 Mavericks now. Feels like for me, you've got 5 guys locked in really well with this team. Obviously, Luka and Kai. Obviously, Grant Williams, your new addition. Derek Lively, your big-time rookie. And the 5th guy is one of the more interesting guys because he's really, I think maybe been the 2nd or 3rd best Maverick in totality this season. That's Tim Hardaway Jr. And this is a great 6-man role for him thus far. He's shooting as well as he has in a while. The contract is nice, and it's pretty much the only reason why I have him kind of still on the outside of this core because I know if the Mavericks get the right offer, he'll probably have to be in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm the Mavericks, I'm looking at Josh Green. I'm obviously looking at the Maxi Kleba, the Rashawn Holmes contracts, and I love to trade those more. Dwight Powell's untouchable. Get over it. We all know that. But you know what I mean? You have some assets that maybe Jaden Hardy, that maybe at this point you need to really evaluate and figure out as this landscape comes out. Teams like the Bulls, who I'll talk about in that hoopla bit, are starting to maybe implode early. Maybe there's some pieces you can get in on, even if it's not as big as going for Levine, who I think Levine and DeRozan and Vucevic, all 3 would be bad Mavericks. Unless the Mavericks are bringing back Caruso, I don't think I would want the Mavericks to make a trade for a Bulls player right now. Just them only, because their problems aren't going to be solved by anybody on any of the 3 best Bulls players. Like, all 3 of the best Bulls players need to go to like Lakers, Heat, someone who can play defense but can't fucking shoot worth his shit. That's who needs those guys. Mavericks not one of those teams, I don't think. I think that would exacerbate the defensive issues, the ball sticking issues, all that shit. Even though it'd be sexy. So yeah, that's pretty much it with me on the Mavericks. Still really excited about everything. This was a Kyrie-less blowout over, probably the worst team in basketball, the Washington Wizards. But doesn't matter. Still a win nonetheless. And the Mavericks right on. I will say, though, still not seeing a lot of hard tests for the Mavericks, unfortunately.
It's the NBA in November.
And the unfortunate part is there's been so many great competitions. Like, there's been such good basketball already, but there's so many divisions that are loaded. Like, the fucking Western Pacific is so deep. You know, the Eastern Atlantic is hella deep. You just have these divisions that are so goddamn tight that there's just some that aren't. You know, there's some divisions that are just obviously, as a result, kind of hilariously bad. Yeah. And then those Spurs. 22nd in offensive rating last week. That's going to fall down to 28th in offensive rating now.
Yeah.
6th in pace last week, 5th in pace this week. I still like to keep track of pace just because it helps you understand a little bit of a fringe of what the team might look like. So for the Mavericks and for the Spurs, this is interesting because of obviously Victor playing a lot faster. They think that's a strategy that can help with their point guardless team. The Mavericks playing faster is notable because Luka likes to play slow as the devil's dick. So that's why we note those two with these teams specifically, at least early on. And then 28th in defensive rating last time we checked in. Luckily, there's not far to fall, but you did anyway, to 29th in defensive rating. So, not the worst team, but second to worst team.
If you're not first, you're last.
The San Antonio Spurs are 0-2 in the East.
Yeah. Not eliminated yet. We're no Grizzlies.
2 games left to go in the Western Group 5. Unfortunately, I think the Warriors just lost one too. So either way, Sacramento is Friday, which will be the next East game for the Los Spurs, and then Golden State in Golden State with probably out Draymond Green, but probably Steph Curry in that game. So maybe you get both of them less, and maybe Sacramento still just now got Fox back, so maybe you get a little bit of a slide. I don't know. Spurs got shithoused against the Thunder on their last in-season tournament game yesterday.
Almost got doubled up, dude.
Yes.
It was like 120 to 80.
Yeah, it wasn't good. That was one of the games I had for the plane, and that's why I was reading too. So
is that, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but from the people that I've read online talking about it, sounds like they're struggling to get Wemby the ball, and when they do, he's struggling with the double teams.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of shooting on this team. There's no point guard on this team. There's so many reasons for Victor to be dealing with a lot of bullshit. I mean, yeah, I guess that you could label it that, but really it's just, again, talent and youth. You know, it's not necessarily because Victor's not doing enough or he's not being made efficient enough. They're doing as well as they can.
I just haven't been able to watch outside of the game I was at, and I've seen 3 game recaps and 1 other live game, but yeah, I've missed a bunch. So
yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is it's probably more of a compliment to Victor. I mean, he's going to run away with Rookie of the Year this year, and it's really not even just because of the other injuries. It's silly to even think that somebody could come in and get close to the numbers he's already put. I wasn't
expecting his rookie season to look like Tim Duncan's, where he's just joining an already playoff-made team, you know?
Right. That's definitely not the case here.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there's
a little more the LeBron route.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Although I think this team is better than the 03 Cavs, but...
Well, yeah, the 03 Cavs had a lot of talent. Unfortunately, Cleveland did not manage it very well. I had a decent amount of talent. Victor Wembanyama's 3-ball is probably still the most important part of the season for him individually. For me, defensively, it's always going to sort of be whatever. He'll make up for a lot of things, but he's not going to be able to make up for as bad of a defense as they naturally are. I think that he's shooting I think it's either 29 or maybe it rounds out to 30% from the 3-point line. So I actually don't think that's a bad mark at all. And the most important number is that he's, I think he's 77% free throw shooter.
Yeah, and that's actually down from his career, I believe. So hopefully,
well,
who knows?
His career doesn't exist, man. Even with college kids, this is your career just started.
I know,
Victor.
but
I don't care. I'm telling you, just like Luka, I don't give a shit. I respect foreign basketball.
I think it's closer to like him and Luka. I think are closer to like a Japanese or a Korean baseball player coming over. Like it kind of matters because the leagues are decent enough to where some of those numbers should at least show that you have a skill set here. You know, I don't know. Maybe not 1-to-1, but Free throw
It
seems
does-
like something that should be a 1-to-1 though.
But you got kids like Jalen Johnson who go to or 5 stars at Duke. They dick around, barely get drafted into the NBA, and then now they're averaging triple doubles because they're just naturally that fucking good, and they finally find into a system where they get a little playing time, a little bit of belief. All of a sudden, they're cooking with Crisco because they care. It's just hard for me. Anything outside of the NBA is not the NBA.
I mean, that's true. That is a fact.
That is a fact. That is. I actually looked that up and made sure. So Vassell, not a big injury for Vassell. I think when we were talking last week, he had actually rushed himself back to get his ass beat by the Knicks, I believe, that night.
It happens.
It happens. We're happy to see him playing because that's the most important part. One of the worst parts of his game, though, is the shot selection, the hero ball, surprisingly chaotic for a Spurs player, but not necessarily surprising for the team that he's on if you just take it outside of the history of those Spurs. There's no damn point guard on this team. He's just everybody's kind of doing what they fucking want. So, of course, Vassell's like, "Wow, if it's not the big dude, I think it's me."
Point Jeremy,
Fuck?
dude.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy's been interesting. I still think that this
that's not
experiment
there's
doesn't
no way
make a
that's a
fucking bit of
long-term
sense.
solution. I think it's just Pop knows he doesn't have one right now.
I think that's possible. I think it's very probable, actually. In fact, as much as Sohan isn't looking that bad in every other game, it's not too awful. I noticed a trend in all the games. He's like getting his absolute ass dusted. Like in the plus minuses, this man is getting double-digit minuses. Not ideal for your starting players, right?
Nope.
No.
If you look at them, it's Oklahoma City with SGA, it's the Knicks with Brunson, it's the Pacers with Halliburton. Jeremy Sohan is trash if he can't defend, if he's defending faster.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
We
is that
got
me?
you. Okay. You're back. Nope.
I'm back. I think I'm back.
Okay, cool.
All right. That's weird because I never lost Bethke, but I lost Patrick.
Oh,
Interesting.
thank you. Yes, it's you.
Yeah, well, my recording is the one that's going to get posted, so...
But all right, so yeah, basically, long story short, San Antonio still has no point guard. That's a problem. No fucking clue if we should expect San Antonio to try to be a better team this year, but my guess is nah.
You know, if the opportunity presents itself, but I don't see how it would. That's fine. I wasn't
I mean,
expecting
it's
a
just-
lot out of this year.
You would have to probably get a young player back in return for somebody that you give up, like, you know, that somebody actually wants. I don't know. Maybe y'all are the ones who ends up getting Bones Highland with all the Clippers guards that they have. Who knows? There's some guards that might end up getting moved to San Antonio because there's plenty of like reserve guards not getting minutes that deserve minutes. So I think if San Antonio really wanted a point guard, they could get one for very, very cheap quickly.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of resources beyond just the players on the team. So
Yeah, that's why I said even just being crafty, I think you got it. But that's pretty much it for hoops. We got a whole shit ton of the real deal Holyfield NFL
I do want to mention
football.
something I learned this week. That'll transition us from hoops to the football.
Ball.
Did you know that?
Meatball.
Oh man, I'm so bad at pronouncing names. I should have looked up the pronunciation on this. Dallas Wings player Enrique
Agumbawale's brother was the guy.
her
who
brother
kicked it.
is a running back for the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
They both play.
Oh,
in
that's the
state.
guy who scored a field goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the emergency kicker, I guess. Is that how that works? Anyways,
guess
that's
so.
cool. We're going to pass the rock to C's, and we're going to take a quick break before we do.